ideology in Saudi Arabia. They want the society to remain that. So, understandable. So, a solution, I'm not here to offer a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because that video would probably be about 7 hours long. There have been agreement after agreements after agreements that have been reached by both sides. The agreements have never held up, as you can see where we are to this day. The fact of the matter is, there has been fighting over this land for thousands of years, going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And really, I question if it ever will stop. Because I question, let's say that tomorrow, I'm speaking in hypotheticals, let's just say that tomorrow that the Palestinians were given a state. Let's just even say that Israel returned back, they returned back behind the 1967, the pre-1967 war lines. They gave the Palestinians all that territory that they had before the 1967 war. They give all that back to them. Okay? And the nation of Palestine is reestablished. No longer the Palestinian Authority, it is the nation of Palestine, or whatever they choose to call it. Now, the elected legislative government of the Palestinian Authority is Hamas. And in the charter of Hamas, and I'm not going to paraphrase it, I'll just read it for you. Taking in consideration, remember everything I just said about we're going to establish a Palestinian state next, side by side with the Jewish state. It's going to be in the parameters of where it would have been in 1967 before the war. But we have a problem. The democratically elected government of the Palestinian Authority, I'm not talking about the Prime Minister, I'm talking about the legislature, is Hamas. Hamas is an internationally recognized terrorist organization. Some people call them freedom fighters, all that kind of thing. They're a liberation. I've heard they're a liberation organization. You know, there was a time, a very short time in my life, where I started to believe those things, that Hamas and Hezbollah, that they were humanitarian. They just wanted their freedom from occupation. Because if you go back through the history, well, some of the history of these groups, you look that a lot of them were formed, well, particularly talking about Hezbollah, but of course Hezbollah was formed as a resistance group, as a resistance movement to really Syrian aggression. So that was a group that was formed out of aggression. It wanted independent and free Lebanon. Some people may say that about Hamas as well, that they just want a homeland for the Palestinian people. They just want a homeland. Well, let's just say that was the reason that these groups were started. And I have read accounts saying that this is the reason why, their initial reasons for these groups of being started. But the point that I want to make is, what are they now? You have Hezbollah that has been fingered in having a hand in terrorist activity going on as far away as South America and Colombia, and with the FARC terrorist organization, all the fighting that's going on down there in Colombia. That alone, and there are other accounts. I mean, look it up for yourselves. There are accounts. These groups' aim has now gone far beyond just wanting an independent state for their people. It's far beyond that. They engage routinely in murder, mass killings, bombings. It's really hard for me to wrap my brain around how people can defend that. When I've sat and watched videos of these people plant bombs in cafes, and I'm talking about these are in their own nation, in their own countries. They kill their own people. Plant bombs in cafes, walk away, and then you see the bomb. Now the crowded cafe, men, women, children, and the bomb blows up. And then they praise God for the bomb blowing up, killing 50 people in the cafe. That's sick. But getting back to what I was saying about Hamas, we have a problem. If we did establish the Palestinian state, we have a problem because the democratically elected government of Palestine, in their charter, says this, and I quote, "Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it." Another one, "There is no solution for the Palestinian question except through jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are all a waste of time and vain endeavors." These are two things that are in the Hamas charter. Sort of their constitution, what they live by. So we have a problem. Hamas Hamas will never accept the state of Israel because they don't believe that Israel has the right to exist at all. They believe that all of that land, the land even that we call the state of Israel today, belongs to the Palestinian people. So in their eyes, and I've just read you lines from their covenant, from their charter, from their constitution, that in their minds and their objective is to not have an Israeli state, not a two-state solution, not a two-state solution. In their mind, there should not even be an Israeli state, and their aim is to destroy the Israeli state. So my question is, what peace? What peace are we going to make? You know, President Carter, and I've read his book, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid. Interesting read, I'll say. But over time, I've been able to pick it apart and see it for the fraud that it actually was and the propaganda tool that it actually was, because it was. Because I refuse to be a person that allows friends, that allows associates, that allows professors, the media, anyone else to influence what I believe, because I know what I've read, I know what I've studied, I know what I've watched, I know what I've seen, and I have taken a lot of time in reading the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict. I'm talking about going all the way back to biblical days, the groups that were fighting in that area. And like I said, what peace? Will there ever be so-called peace in the Middle East? I'm not quite sure. But I do know one thing. I know that if Hamas, the Palestinians, Hamas, because it's not just Hamas, it's also Islamic Jihad and Fatah. Those are other terrorist groups that are within the Palestinian Authority. It's actually more than that. If these groups, I know this, if they laid down their arms, there will be a Palestinian state tomorrow. But if Israel laid down its arms, there would not be a Jewish state tomorrow. So I'll leave it at that, and I'm signing off. I'm sure the comments will come flowing.